I'm obviously going to excuse myself.
All right, so what are we looking at? What new hell have we sunk to now here in the United States of...
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Well, it's a Kentucky police patrol car with a Blue Lives Matter thin blue line Punisher skull on the hood. There's a lot to unpack here, but let's stick to tradition and begin by examining the skull. The skull is the symbol of the Punisher, the Marvel Comics vigilante anti-hero. The Punisher's real name is Frank Castiglione, but he changed it to Frank Castle, I guess because he's ashamed of his Sicilian heritage. Disappointing. Frank Castle is an ex-Marine whose wife and kids are murdered by the mob, leaving him an empty husk of a man whose only consolation is his obsession with revenge. There's been a lot of TV and movie adaptations of the Punisher, and as research for this video, I did watch all of them, and my conclusion is that the best one is the 1989 version, where Dolph Lundgren dyes his hair black to pass as Sicilian and runs around naked and sweaty in the sewers, worshipping the god of vengeance at a shrine of trash. You know, just like the police do. Hi, I'm Natalie, creator of ContraPoints. And no, I'm not a cat girl, I'm a cat woman. I'm sorry you're intimidated by that. Look, I'm tired of only being valued for my petite, heterosexual body. I'd like to be recognized for my worth as a mother, as a wife, and as a woman with values. Just kidding, I'm trash.
Let's talk about justice, Ulu. Justice is when I get lots of head pats. Yeah.
The Punisher's main quest is to kill all the mobsters who murdered his family. But once he gets revenge, he can't stop killing, because it's the only thing that gives meaning to his shitty life. So he wages a one-man war on organized crime. But no matter how many bad guys he kills, it's never enough, because new criminals just come along and take the place of the old ones. It's like a cycle where violence begets violence and nothing ever really changes. It's almost like this comic book is trying to tell us something about the nature of crime and punishment. But you know what? Let's not overthink this. Sure, just slap a giant skull on the car. Great, perfect.
Are we the baddies?
Look, maybe you're assuming I'm one of these libtarded, Antifa sympathizing, big government anarchists who sits behind my iPhone with my latte criticizing the police, even though I could never do a job 1/10 as difficult as theirs. And to that I say, how dare you assume things that are entirely correct? This is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee. There's just nothing better than waking up in the morning and having the first dose of the chemical you're addicted to. They tried to make me go to rehab. I said,
Nya, nya, nya.
but you seem like a reasonable person, a person of science, a seasoned vendor at the free marketplace of ideas gorge. And as a reasonable person, I'm sure you wouldn't dismiss my argument just because I happen to enjoy head pats. As Socrates once said, 2 + 2 is 4 is equally true whether uttered by a philosopher king or a peasant knave. Or a neko mimi. Kawaii days. Is this problematic? Cringe culture is dead and we have killed it. This is beyond cringe. This is cursed, children, cursed. So actually Socrates didn't say this quote, I just made it up, but that just proves the point I'm making, so maybe you should hear me out.
Nya.
I'm making this video at a time when hundreds of videos of police brutality are being shared on social media, spurring on a movement to abolish police and prisons. And at the same time, there's a growing culture of online vigilantism, where justice is taken into the hands of Twitter mobs demanding accountability and consequences for bad behavior. All of this raises a lot of questions. Questions like, what should the consequences be for bad behavior? Who should impose these consequences? And under what circumstances? And for what purpose? If we were to abolish police and prisons, what would take their place? Oh my god, these contacts. I'm literally doing a whole video with fucking sideways cat eyes. Ridiculous. Why don't we start with the basics and ask ourselves, what is justice, Socrates? It's a question philosophers have pondered for thousands of years, with no conclusive answers. I think I can probably figure this out in a YouTube video, because the philosophers were dummies, and I am very smart.
Nya.
Rah-rah Rasputin. 1. Revenge. The Punisher represents a particular idea about what justice is, symbolized by the skull he wears on his t-shirt so that bad guys know they're about to get punished. The Punisher's view is that justice means harming people who harm people, an eye for an eye. This is called retributive justice, the idea that people who commit crimes deserve punishment in proportion to their crime. It's a very emotionally powerful idea of what justice is, because it's rooted in our instinct to strike back at someone who's harmed us. Social animals like humans and chimpanzees often practice revenge, probably because it serves an evolutionary function. If another monkey in your monkey troop steals your bananas and you don't get revenge, then other monkeys will learn that you're a doormat monkey. But if you get revenge on the thief monkey by, I don't know, letting her boyfriend pick parasites out of your fur, then that sends a message to the other monkeys that it is not profitable to mess with you. So our little monkey brains have evolved a taste for vengeance. And even in cases where it doesn't actually benefit us, our desire for retribution is strong, and our little monkey brains reward us with a pleasant feeling of catharsis when justice of this kind is served. So of course, there's a lot of content out there devoted to scratching this itch. For example, there's a subreddit called r/JusticeServed with 1.5 million subscribers. I first found Justice Served when the popular feed showed me this post of 2 teenage thieves stripped naked, humiliated, and photographed as punishment. And all this celebrated under the heading, Police Justice. In fact, before the murder of George Floyd by police, the description of the community was, now with 20% more police brutality. Fun fact, this ain't it, Chief. Period. Full stop. That's the tweet. Of course, I subscribed to Justice Served right away, thinking someone should be keeping an eye on these people. Here's a typical Justice Served post. Woman sets PEDO, husband on fire, after catching him RAPE, 7-year-old daughter. Titled, This Man Got What He Deserved. Instant regret. Predator exposed. To be honest, when I wrote this part of the script, I forgot I was gonna be wearing cat ears. I'm really out here trying to have a conversation about immolating sex offenders while dressed like a aging bargain bin Belle Delphine impersonator. Well, dress for the job you want. I mean, whomst amongst us wouldn't set their husband on fire under those circumstances, right? Let's look at the comments on that post though. Let's read the room. She's a hero in my opinion. Should have had it live on television. Give her a medal. Give her 2 medals. So most people are in favor of setting predators ablaze, but you know, there's always a couple buzzkills in there whining as usual about, oh, maybe we shouldn't be cheering on burning people alive with no due process and no evidence. Lots of men like to fuck my wife because I'm too busy crying about due process. But those people get shouted down pretty fast. They get called pedo simps. Pedo simp. So Justice Served is a community for people to gather together and bond over our shared love of extrajudicial violence. But of course, there's always someone who takes it a little too far. On this video of a thief being kicked in the head until his face is a bloody pulp, one commenter says, "That's a justice boner for me. I dream of the day I catch the thieves that stole from me and kick the life out of them." Criminal fail. Prank gone wrong. So when the righteous zeal for justice becomes the cloak of bloodlust, that is off-putting to some people. As one disgruntled former Justice Served subscriber put it, I wanted to see stories and videos of assholes getting their comeuppance. Instead, I got bombarded with an angry, toxic moral absolutism. Everything is black and white with them. If you don't support mutilating someone beyond repair, then you must support giving them a slap on the wrist and letting them fuck your wife.
Word.
Unsubscribed. But even this liberal cuckold still wanted to watch videos of assholes getting their comeuppance. I think pretty much everyone is capable of enjoying some
Can we
version
talk about the
of
lo-fi
this type
girl in
of
the background?
content.
Why?
There's a lot of subgenres. You've got justice porn, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, instant karma, bad parking revenge, predator poaching,
What do you just shoot me?
serial killer sentenced to death and the whole train clapped, instant justice was served, karma fails, stupid people getting what they deserved. Karma, a lot of this content has kind of a right-wing feel to it. Unmarked police justice, criminal gets shot after fighting cop, home invader takes shotgun blast to the balls. Arizona. Just Arizona. What more is there to say? Arizona. Justice served. Punished. It reminds me of NRA people who spend 10 hours a day fantasizing about how they're gonna kill home intruders with the gun they keep in the
No
bathroom.
subtitles.
But I don't think this longing for retribution is distinctively right-wing. Left-wing people have the exact same emotional response. They just have it in different situations. Think about the jubilation on Twitter when they get a racist Karen fired. Remember that ugly hag Lisa who harassed a black man in front of an apartment building? Karma. And she got her husband fired. Dumb bitch really should have minded her business. Love to see it. She will probably end up with community service and a fine, but I would love to see her in jail for at least 6 months. Firing them was not enough. Life in prison. Life in prison. An example I personally enjoy is that video of Daniel Holtzclaw, the cop who abused his power to sexually assault a series of black women, crying in court as he's sentenced to serve 263 years in prison. He just cannot believe that he's actually facing consequences for this. And of course, there's the much savored vigilante punching of Nazi Richard Spencer. Let's watch it now. Please try not to enjoy this. Remember, this is purely for educational, monetizable purposes.
It's Pepe's become kind of a symbol.
That was informative, but let's be honest, the reason that video was so popular is people just enjoyed watching an Nazi get what he deserves. Justice served. Punished. Smashing.
Very happy it sounds, Lulu.
Remember to smash subscribe. So this punitive, retributive impulse, no matter how righteous it feels, is still based.
Let's be honest, chat. Let's be honest. I believe in prison abolition. I believe that we need to address the systemic injustices surrounding our broken criminal justice system. I believe that it is, to a certain degree, understanding as to why some people who have been marginalized their entire lives speak out whenever they see yet again another instance of somebody who has had or practiced white privilege their entire life seek some semblance of justice. Because I know that I have been on the side of receiving some semblance of injustice from an experience that I talk about frequently at this point, and I'm talking about Hackerman's, where I did not want or wish or consent to anything that he subjected me to. And I have a lot of hate and disdain in my heart for this person. I want him to be held accountable for his actions, and I need him to receive the consequences that he deserves for the way that he has completely taken control over an aspect of my life, and he has refused to be held accountable. So I understand to a certain degree from my own lived experience where somebody has done something so awful and so wretched to you, and you have to experience the injustices that come with it every single day. And the hate in your heart that you can feel towards somebody who has done something so fucking incredibly awful to you is a very real emotion. And so, yes, I think that we do see sometimes this punitive justice formed and circulated on the internet, where people do feel inclined to share the way in which they think a person who has presumably gotten away with a lot of shit in their life finally be held accountable because their actions were captured and put on the internet. I understand to a certain degree how that resonates and how that manifests in some circles on the internet. Now, I know that there's probably a lot of people who think that I deserve what has happened to me. I also understand that some people do not feel sorry for what this person has done because they think that the actions that they have seen undermine any need or somehow justify the reasons for putting me on the internet on the first. I'm not really sure because I don't understand how people can make this leap in logic because I did not, again, consent to this person putting me on a private Discord, albeit private, because people still had access to it. I'm assuming for a pretty hefty price or some sort of agreement. Then it at least has been under wraps, but it's the fact that, yes, it's real. It's happened to me. And I know that despite me saying over and over again that this person did all of this without my consent, and I'll say it until I'm blue in the face or 6 feet underground, I don't know what'll happen first, for people to understand that sitting idly by and watch this person continue to put my life on the internet without my consent because this person felt entitled to me, to everything that I did, and then thought that it would be okay to make money off of me because I guess the cost of his schooling was pretty expensive and he thought that I would be cool with it. If I'm picking up everything correctly, he just assumed that I would be cool with it and I wasn't. I understand how this pent-up anger can manifest in a way where I can simultaneously be against harsh penalties and call for prison reform, but also be incredibly desperate to see my abuser, who has violated so many laws, in order to hurt me, seek the justice that I deserve to see and that he deserves to experience. I'm telling you, you can have both of these feelings, especially whenever somebody has wronged you in such a nefarious way. Anyway.
Basically a situational form of sadism, of schadenfreude. The satisfaction of justice served is the pleasure we take in inflicting or witnessing the suffering of someone who deserves it. Now the phrase deserves it is doing a lot of work here. The correct use of that phrase is the difference between a morally well-adjusted person and someone who's hiding bodies in the crawl space.
It puts the lotion on its skin, yeah.
But people generally agree that those who harm others deserve to be harmed themselves. It's why we love stories about revenge. Stories like Mean Girls, The Crow, Old Boy, Titus Andronicus, and Matilda.
Much too good for children.
Revenge is such a popular plotline because it's easy for people to identify with a revenge-seeking protagonist, and it's just the easiest way to hype people up about spectacles of violence. This technique was used in one of the first books ever, The Odyssey by Homer. I stole this copy from my high school, and I stole this copy from my college. I still just read the Spark Notes. Well, let's read it now. See, I knew this would be useful someday. God, he's such a fuckboy. What does Athena see in this man? He must be really hot. Okay, I'm ready for my book report. So the hero of the story is Odysseus, and the whole book is him trying to get home to the island of Ithaca after, Okay, so in the prequel, Odysseus' shitty friend Menelaus throws a tantrum after his wife leaves him to run off with a Turkish guy she was actually attracted to. How dare she? So Menelaus dragged an entire nation to war instead of doing what any normal man would do and blowing off some steam at Femboy Symposium. Anyway, when Odysseus finally gets back to Ithaca, he finds that his house is full of men who are eating his food and drinking his wine and trying to marry his wife. So Odysseus, and this is the hero of our story here, he murders all of his wife's suitors as payback. And then he rounds up all the slave women who slept with the suitors, and he has them all hanged. And this one suitor, Melanthius, Odysseus ties him up and cuts off his ears and nose and feet and then rips off his genitals to feed to the dogs. In reading this, I guess I find myself asking, was this really necessary? Like, as a test reader, my feedback for Homer is maybe workshop this. I mean, super unlikable protagonist. Really kind of kills it for me. I guess it's a male protagonist and you can get away with making them unlikable because men love hearing about assholes. That's why they watch my channel. But the crazy thing is, I don't think Odysseus is supposed to be an asshole. The text seems to approve of what he does to the suitors and to his slaves. Yikes. Disappointing. Casual reminder that Odysseus kills his slaves. It isn't a good look. Wow, this blew up. I don't have a SoundCloud. Give me money. Oh my god, this contact is fully horizontal. This is the last time we're doing cat eye contacts. Fuck this. It just seems disproportionate, you know? Like, it's not even eye for an eye because the suitors didn't kill anyone. They were basically just rude to Odysseus. But I guess you have to understand this kind of thing in cultural context. They came into his home and they disrespected his wife, and probably she was into it, but whatever, we'll play along. So that was an affront to Odysseus's honor. And on the island of Ithaca in the year 1000 BC or whatever, honor was everything. Because this was a pre-legal society. No laws, no courts, no cops, school's out, fuck 12. So honor is a code of conduct enforced by reputation, and that's what kept people from stealing and lying and murdering each other, though it was also often the thing causing them to murder each other, because back then honor was the only thing protecting people from being taken advantage of. If you're an ancient Mycenaean king, and someone invites themselves into your house and drinks your wine and seduces your wife, well, you can't let them get away with that, because then people will walk all over you. So you need to get revenge to protect your honor, to maintain your reputation as a person who is not to be messed with. It's also the point of hard masculinity in honor cultures. Hard masculinity is a defensive posture, an intimidating posture. It showcases strength and hides vulnerability. We call it toxic masculinity now because in our society, it's destructive and dysfunctional. We've moved beyond the need for this, which is why it's possible for me to exist. If society collapses and we go back to Achilles and Odysseus, I'm in danger. I'm much too delicate for this Mycenaean savagery. Back in Homer's time, I'd be a slave at Femboy Symposium.
Extremely sad gay sounds. Meow.
But for people in situations where appealing to community or state law enforcement is not an option, such as kings of ancient Mediterranean islands, or gangsters who need to resolve conflicts outside of the law, or Wild West cowboys, hard masculinity has a function. It's a warning signal, like a skull t-shirt, or the stripes on a poisonous snake. And the poison is vengeance. Justice served. So revenge is arguably the most basic form of retributive justice. The philosopher Francis Bacon defined revenge as wild justice, according to the first paragraph of the Wikipedia article about revenge. Research.
I am very smart, Nya.
But in most modern legal systems, revenge is frowned upon, and for pretty good reasons. An eye for an eye will make the whole world blind, didn't you know that? If someone harms you and you get revenge by killing him, then his family is going to try to get revenge by killing you. It's a cycle of smashing. At the end of the Odyssey, the families of the suitors Odysseus killed band together and plot to get revenge by killing Odysseus. And literally the last thing that happens in the Odyssey is that the goddess Athena, who has an inexplicable lady boner for Odysseus, steps in and saves him by just making the families forget that Odysseus killed their children. So only divine intervention and amnesia stops the cycle of violence. But in reality, that doesn't happen very much, so these cycles can last for decades or even centuries. In Albania, there's an ancient code called the canon, which requires a family to commit murder in order to preserve their honor when another family offends against them. Life for life, blood for blood. This historically led to blood feuds between families that could last for generations, and in fact it still sometimes happens in parts of northern Albania. There's documentaries on YouTube about families who are trapped at home, possibly for the rest of their lives, because there's a vendetta against them, and if they leave the house, they'll be murdered. Historically, blood feuds led to a high mortality rate for young men, which may have contributed to the tradition of what are called Albanian sworn virgins. These are assigned female at birth people who would take a vow of chastity in exchange for getting to live as men. There's still some of them around, and in a very patriarchal society, they're socially recognized as men, allowed to wear men's clothes, use a male name uwu, act as head of a household, inherit family wealth, and generally have the rights and privileges of a man.
Extremely happy trans sounds, uwu.
I bring this up just because I think it shows how devastating the blood feuds must have been, because only desperation would lead a European country hundreds of years ago to support trans rights. No one wants that, so you know it was a last resort. Sworn virgins weren't transgender. Most were compelled to provide
I
for
know
their
that,
family
sweaty.
if
It
they
was
didn't
just
do
a
it
joke,
for their
okay?
feelings.
Calm down.
Revenge cycles also happen on a larger scale between communities, nations, ethnicities, religions. I'm worried if I give a real example, I'll be canceled for seeming neutral about a conflict where I'm supposed to take a side. So, in the interest of cowardice, let's say that the cat girls bomb the dog girls, and then the dog girls bomb the cat girls, and that cycle repeats for a few decades. And by that point, both nations have such a long and bitter list of grievances
Thanks,
against each
Aristine,
other
for
that
noticing.
reconciliation is close to impossible.
Extremely angry gay sounds. Nya.
So, a revenge-based code of honor is not really an ideal justice system. It's bloody, it's chaotic, and it produces these endless cycles of violence. So at some point in the growth of a civilization, something has to be done to control the chaos caused by vengeance. And the most popular way to do that is to create a state legal system. 2. Retribution. The extremely heckin' cute and valid German sociologist Max Weber defined the state as the organization with a monopoly on the legitimate use of violence. In an honor society with no rule of law, anyone is allowed to kill someone as long as they do so in accordance with the code of honor. But once you have the state, usually only the government is allowed to kill people. In ancient Babylon, there was a king called Hammurabi who enacted one of the first law codes in the world around 1750 BC, an era that scholars refer to as history times. The Code of Hammurabi looked like this. The laws were crudely scratched into the stone using some primitive attempt at writing. I mean, it was like 1,000 years ago, so I'm sure they were doing their best. It's very good, sweetie. I'll hang it up on the refrigerator for you. I was expecting this replica to be bigger, sort of a Spinal Tap Stonehenge situation. The actual Hammurabi steles were about 7 feet tall, and they were publicly placed in the city so that everyone knew what the laws were, even though most people were illiterate, but hey, they tried, sort of. Let's read some of Hammurabi's laws. That's content, right? Cat girl reacts to the Code of Hammurabi. Nias queen. We don't deserve rights. So there's 282 laws, and they're all in if-then form, so if you do X, then the punishment is Y. Law 22, if anyone is committing a robbery and is caught, then he shall be put to death. That's extremely valid. If a son of a paramour or prostitute say to his adoptive father or mother, "You are not my father or my mother," his tongue shall be cut off. Well, at least they're standing up for adoptive parents. If a man put out the eye of another man, his eye shall be put out. Now we're getting into some of the classics. If he break another man's bone, his bone shall be broken. If a freed man strike the body of another freed man, he shall pay 10 shekels in money. But if the slave of a freed man strike the body of a freed man, his ear shall be cut off.
Jesus.
Oh, so there's different punishments for different
You should
classes.
read all
So
laws?
it's like our legal system, except honest. If a builder build a house for someone and does not construct it properly, and the house which he built fall in and kill its owner, then that builder shall be put to death. If it kill the son of the owner, the son of that builder shall be put to death. Love that. Okay, so by modern standards, the Code
On
of
stream,
Hammurabi
all of them, all the laws ever
does
written
not pass
ever.
the vibe check. The vibrations are very negative. It's a lot of cutting people's hands off and burning them alive. Just a major vibe killer all around. But you have to credit Hammurabi's code for resolving the problem of honor-driven revenge cycles. You know, if you live in Babylon and someone harms you, instead of retaliating against their family and potentially starting a generations-long blood feud, you take your grievance to the elders of the city, who reach a verdict and impose a sentence just is served. So the involvement of a neutral third party is one major difference between vigilante revenge and a state legal system of retributive justice. Let's list all the differences. Revenge is personal in the sense that it's the victim who does the avenging. It's often emotional, an act of passion. It can be disproportionate, as in Odysseus killing the suitors for squatting in his palace. And it's sadistic. It's satisfying to the avenger. Revenge is sweet. On the other hand, a legal system of retributive justice is impersonal in the sense that the punishment is imposed by a third party, the state, and not the victim. It's therefore disinterested, so not in theory motivated by emotion, and also lacking the sadism of sweet revenge. It's also proportionate, again in theory. You know, an eye for an eye sounds brutal, but it's an eye for an eye and no more than an eye, and that could be considered humane compared to, say, revenge killing someone's family for an eye. And it's also consistent, so different offenders are supposed to get the same punishment for the same crime. I mean, unless you're rich, in which case, don't you even worry your little head about it, just pay some gold. It's fine.
Girl, these contacts, like...
So there are supposed to be these differences between revenge and retributive justice, which is why it's so inappropriate for law enforcement to identify with the outlaw punisher. Modern criminal sentencing accepts retribution as a goal while rejecting revenge as lawless. However, I feel that retributive justice is still spiritually akin.
Chat, let me ask you this. If there's a cop and they're on the freeway and two cars are speeding, one of them has a Blue Lives Matter sticker on the back of the car, the other doesn't, who do you think the cop goes for whenever they pull someone over? Pay me your gold? I don't have any gold. I'm broke. I'm broke as shit. I actually read somewhat. Okay. God damn it. Hi, my hero Kelly. Hi. Okay, so okay. I forget where I saw this, but it might have been TikTok. Might have been somewhere. Like somebody like really put a Blue Lives Matter. Their registration had expired. All right, their registration had expired. So rather than go and re-register their car, all right, they put a Blue Lives Matter sticker on the back of their car. I don't know if this is real or not. Reference, I don't know where it is. I don't know where you can find it. But I swear to God, I saw that somewhere on the internet and I should have saved it because I was thinking, holy shit, is this going to work? Probably. Imagine instead of going and getting your license, registration, or whatever renewed, you just slap on a Blue Lives Matter sticker and you're good. The fuck? But this does kind of apply to what we're seeing right now. Think about how the mainstream media, right-wing mainstream media, is treating Kyle Rittenhouse. All right? Calling him a hero and a vigilante and somebody who was just trying to do their service to the American property of this country. And think about how people have gone through hoops to defend him, his honor, and his purpose for showing up to a Black Lives Matter protest and opening fire. All right? This is the same energy. It's the same energy. My grandfather had a Sheriff Association sticker on his vehicle and he got out of tickets in Virginia. Is that my face? Oh, I didn't even notice it. I look so happy. I look so happy. I witnessed it? Damn. Smile and wave and curse under your breath the words fuck 12. What if it's a black man with a Blue Lives Matter sticker? That's your happy face? My happy face? I don't know if I have a happy face. No, I don't. Can't fake it. Can't fake anything for shit, chat. I'm horrible at lying, and I'm really bad at faking shit. God! Horrible. We may just move to me. Just so you know, Chad, anytime that I laugh or smile, it's genuine, okay? Because I can't fake that shit for shit, all right? So I hope that will at least make you feel better. That whenever you say something and I laugh, it's because I genuinely think it's funny, all right? Now you know. Oh, we saw this. I'm like, look at this. Did they put this in order? Alphabetical order? Just Aiden? There's me! Worst smile ever. Just look at this.
Akin to revenge. It scratches the same emotional itch. It's basically revenge by proxy. If revenge is wild justice, then retributive justice is domesticated revenge. In both cases, there's a drive to restore the moral order of things, to balance out the karma by harming the person who caused harm, sometimes in a poetic justice kind of way. Like in the Code of Hammurabi, there's this symbolic retaliation of punishing the body part that you offended with, cutting off the hand that struck the father, cutting off the breasts of the wet nurse who switched the babies, cutting out the tongue that renounced its parents. There's a kind of aesthetic dimension to this, an appreciation for the symmetry of punishment and crime. For a modern example, here's a poetic justice post from r/instant karma. Mugshots.com puts people's mugshots online and then demands payment to take them down. The site's founders were just arrested for extortion. Here are their mugshots. There's something metaphysically pleasant about poetic justice, this sense of beautiful cosmic harmony. And my guess is that this way of thinking originates in some primeval human instinct that's difficult to get rid of. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't question it. The logic of retribution has been questioned for thousands of years by philosophers, reformists, messiahs, fancy people who think they're too good to enjoy violence. One school of anti-retribution thought we could call the love and forgiveness school. And the main love and forgiveness guy is a preachy lib you may have heard of called Jesus of Nazareth. Back in Bible times, the Hebrews had laws of retributive justice that were similar to the Code of Hammurabi. Like in the book of Exodus, God gives a bunch of laws to Moses, including some relaunches of Hammurabi classics. Viewers at home may now open up your Bibles to Exodus 21:22. If people are fighting and hit a pregnant woman and she gives birth prematurely, but there is no serious injury, the offender must be fined whatever the woman's husband demands and the court allows. But if there is serious injury, you are to take life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, bruise for bruise.
Head pats for head pats. Welcome to Catgirl Bible Study, Neil. Extremely devotional gay sound, Zulu.
I feel very spiritually aroused right now. My third eye chakra, dripping. Macaroni in a pot. I need Jesus. I'm so sorry. So the law of Moses is pretty based and uncucked. It's basically an eye for an eye, don't be a homo, basic common sense. But then Jesus comes along and he's riding his high horse of love and forgiveness. In Matthew 26:52, a disciple tries to defend Jesus from being arrested after Judas betrays him, but Jesus says, "Put your sword back in its place, Spartacus. All who draw the sword will die by the sword." Now, some people read that as saying that violence begets violence and should be renounced, even to the point where you shouldn't defend yourself, which is peak radical centrism, denying the right of marginalized people to defend themselves. Rethink this. It gets worse. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, "Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." Love your enemies? But I don't want to love my enemies. No loving. Smashing. But maybe Jesus wasn't as literal minded as that. You know, religion is a very subjective thing, and I have my own Bible interpretations, and my personal view is that a lot of what Jesus says is actually sarcasm. Like, consider Matthew 5:38. Why is no one talking about Matthew 5:38? Jesus says, "You've heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evildoer. But if anyone strikes you
Jesus
on the right
fucking
cheek,
Christ.
turn the other also." Think of the drama of what he's asking you to do here. Someone strikes you across the face and you go, this is not pacifism. This is passive aggression, some sort of primeval Hebrew shade. This is the Christianity of, okay, well, I'll pray for you. But if you do take Jesus at face value, then I would argue that his endorsement of love and forgiveness as a response to wrongdoing is not justice at all. It's an alternative to justice. In the absence of justice, forgiveness is an emotional unburdening of the resentment and anger that victims of injustice experience. And religion often provides this release, instructing people not to worry too much about serving earthly justice, because justice is really God's business, and he'll take care of it.
Look, man, I don't know how to say this. I know that some people really do hold on to their Christian values and they need religion in their life to offer them some semblance of order and purpose. But I gotta tell you, if you're over here thinking that somehow, some way, there's a higher power that you call to, that gives you the direction that you need, that provides you with the pathway forward, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. Why? How? Why? What? I know, like, if my Nana were in my chat right now, she would be so disappointed in me. She would say, "Amy, this is not becoming of a lady to speak out against this. You're God and your Savior." But I gotta tell you something, Nana. Anyone else who is listening, look, I don't want to take away anybody's moral value. And if they find moral value in being religious, all right, maybe I am a little bit. Maybe that's exactly what I'm setting this up to be. A complete and total takedown on religion. And this idea that there is a higher power granting you the direction and the purpose that you need. I just feel like, my mom has all of these superstitions. Don't say that. And I do think that it is from the congregation of organized religion that does lead to more evil in a lot of ways than not being religious at all. That also kind of rubs me the wrong way. And the point that people can be so hateful and so bigoted and claim to be religious, these evangelical Christians to be specific, where they hide behind their faith in Jesus Christ to pursue a life of hate-filled bigotry, is morally reprehensible. Nana, would Paul go me now? Yeah, okay, maybe. I'm praying for you. What are you gonna pray for? What are you gonna ask the big man upstairs? You should say something like this. "Hey, big man upstairs, you have let so many people suffer and fucking die that people no longer believe in you because you have gaslit so many people into thinking you are the guy to go to in order to maintain this order on the ground. So many people believe in you and they live their entire lives in an attempt to please you, and somehow they have gone astray along the road at some point, and they have fallen victim to the idea of organized religion, and they really think that if they go to church every fucking Sunday, that they get a pass and can treat people with indecency and bigotry in the name of Jesus Christ. So somewhere along the way, religion's gone awry to the point where it's bullshit for the most part, but also assuming that there is a big guy upstairs and he watches so many people in the pits of despair, and he watches other people bring forward harm to other people. Like literally, people here on earth bring so much harm to other people, and God just sits back and like watches. Hey, that's kind of fucked up. You mean to tell me that I'm supposed to have faith in this guy? This guy who watches all of this injustice? Watches all of this hatred, watches all of this bigotry, watches all of this colossal failure, and he doesn't do anything? The fuck? I'm not here for it. I don't like this guy. Listen, if this guy were a fucking manager, if God were a manager, all right, the CEO would have fired him. Okay, let's do a better analogy. If God were a CEO, the board of directors would fucking fire him. All right? That's all I'm saying. If God were on Earth right now and he were the CEO, the board of directors would have thrown his ass out a long time ago. Yeah, you're fired. That's all I'm saying.
That when the day of judgment comes. It's a little bit like in Hinduism and Buddhism, there's the idea of karma, which is like a cosmic law of moral cause and effect that exists independently of any god
Too
or
far?
human
Too
institution.
far?
You reap what you sow, basically. So
Trump would have
maybe
pardoned
don't
him.
worry about injustice too much, because karma will take care of it. This kind of thinking is sometimes called the just world fallacy, the cognitive bias that sees the world as inherently fair and good. Everything happens for a reason. If something really horrible happens, like a child is murdered, people say there's a special place in God's kingdom for little angels taken up so soon. And then they'll fantasize about the killer going to hell and being anally demolished by fire demons or whatever. People reassure themselves like this because it relieves the stress of enduring unresolved injustice. In the Bible, the book of Job deals with the problem of injustice. Why do bad things happen to good people? And the answer is, just don't worry about it. It's part of God's plan. It'll all work out in the end. It's fine. Everything's fine. The alternative is being burdened with the awareness that the world is just kind of very not good, in which case you might start getting ideas in your head about, I don't know, maybe changing some things. I guess I should disclaimer that hashtag not all religion, and obviously many political activists have been influenced by faith, but let's put a pin in that for now. 3. Utilitarianism. So there's also a secular tradition of anti-retribution thinking, which tries to define justice as something other than retaliation. Utilitarian reformists have argued that the goal of criminal justice should be to improve society, rather than punishment for punishment's sake. Utilitarianism is the moral theory which says that the right thing to do is whatever causes the highest ratio of human happiness to human suffering. So the utilitarian approach to punishment looks forward at preventing future crimes, where retribution looks backward at punishing past crimes, revenge by proxy. Some utilitarian punishment goals might be deterrence, punishing criminals as an incentive for others not to offend, or incapacitation of criminals in prisons, or rehabilitation of criminals, trying to educate or discipline them so that they can re-enter society. A lot of people consider these utilitarian goals to be more rational and scientific than retribution, which is very based in emotion.
Okay, better analogy. If we were able to democratize the workplace and God were a CEO, then the people who had a share, which would be everyone, all the stakeholders, which would be everyone, would vote him out of his position. How about that? That's so much better of an analogy, and it keeps us in line with our socialist agenda. So let me repeat that one more time. If we actually had democratized workplace in this country, and God were the CEO, the people within that company, the stakeholders, which would be all the workers, would effectively vote him out of his position. That's what I think. There we go. That was really bothering me. Or I was picking up what you're putting down. I don't know. To many, religion is their only way to keep hope. I think that's really sad too. Can you imagine that despite the destruction and the despair that you are experiencing, that you are susceptible to every single day because of where you live, the conflicts, or the conditions of the place in which you grow up, your environment that you were born into will dictate how you use religion to cope with the conditions in which you were born into. All right? And that is actually incredibly sad that in some cases, religion and having something to believe in and look forward to is the only way that they survive. That's incredibly sad. Whenever we put it that way, it is incredibly sad that religion is sometimes the only thing that keeps a person going. Now look, I'm agnostic for a reason. I will not discount the possibility that there is something more powerful than us. I don't like the idea of subscribing to a specific religion because I'm not religious. I think that it's better to just keep it open. I know that some of y'all like to say I'm an enlightened centrist on this front because I will not say whether or not I believe in God or Satan. I do believe that there is something bigger than us, and maybe that makes me a little more spiritual. But yeah, I keep this open-ended for a reason, because it doesn't make sense. But at the same time, it kind of seems wrong to count out the possibility. And because I like a little mysticism in my life. You know me, Chad. You know how I do. You know. Crystal? Anyone? Crystal? Crystal? Anybody want some crystal power? We'll just do a crystal check real quick. We'll do some vibe check. Anybody want some crystal power? Calling out crystal power. Anyone? You want it? Crystals? Anyone? Crystal? Vibes? Vibes? Anyone want some vibes? A vibe? We got a vibe. You want a vibe? I got you a vibe. Anybody? 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 Good vibes? Good vibes? Call him now. Come. Lena, you get good vibe. Lena gets the good vibes. Anyone else? Anyone else? J Fro, you get the vibes. You get the vibes. Hands up, crystals up. Hey, Xavier, you get the vibes. Everyone get the vibes. We all get the vibes. Here we go. BKO, you get the vibes. Good vibes. Now, as I was saying, subby check. Thank you, Ella Jackson. Do they make vibes for butts? What? We're doing a vibe check. Can we do a prime check? We did a vibe check. Can we do a prime check? Any primers in the chat? Any primers? Any primers in the chat? Any primes in the chat? Any primes in the chat? Any new time? Hey, any new time subscribers? You get a deal, I hear. It's September. September. Any new community members who have meandered into this chat that want to sub? You get a discount. You can do 6 months. You can do 6 months, 30% off. That's what I hear, at least. Any newers? Any new community members? Any new chatters? No? 6 months tier 3, such a deal? Hey, yeah, 6 months tier 3, you get the tier 3 subby. It's awful. It's awful, but it's hilarious. You should join the Church of Apathetic Agnostics. It's great here. Apathetic Agnostics, it's a real thing. Thank you so much, DC Baller, for gifting a tier 1 subby to Lena. Thank you so much. You mean amazing. Adam and Eve had a chance, but they blew it. Again, I think any church kind of rubs me the wrong way. Even if this mission's a little better than, most other organized religions, it's still kind of... You know what, Chad? If a sense of community is what the people are after, maybe we should try to address that. And as city planners, we are most equipped to find a way to offer some semblance of a community for those who are yearning for a sense of community. You don't have to maybe rely on religion. Maybe there's a way to organize opportunities to get together with your community members outside of church. Xavier, thank you so much for gifting a tier 1 sub to Jinken. Thank you. Oh, and another one to Static Anachromatic. I thought it was atheist, but I've been ordered to worship a new god.
Listen, I am your god now, and I bless you, Jay. Listen, I am your god now, and I bless you,
Beautiful.
Jay.
Close to the hype train? Xavier is my name. Paul Person, thank you for gifting a tier 1 subby. Deep Mist, you get a subby, and we have triggered a hype train. How about that? BKO, thank you so much for the 500 biddies. Thank you, thank you. When are we going to see your TikTok dance? Oh God, the TikTok dance? No way. Absolutely not. All right, we're level 2, 20%, 80 to go. 20% down and 80% to go. Simdaddy Kane, thank you so much for the 6 biddies. Thank you so much. Puggies. One of these days, train stream? Maybe. Nihilism can be positive. You know, chat, we've had that conversation at some point, right? Where some of y'all do believe that nihilism can be positive. Let's revisit that. How can nihilism be positive? Because I think of nihilism like doom and gloom and nothing else, but that is my interpretation of it. That's my interpretation of it. I think Nietzsche's was just like a doomer ass motherfucker, was just like ready to go, hated his life, just wanted to look into that abyss and maybe like jump into it. And I think that's really all that there was to it. And please prove me wrong. And I will forever call Nietzsche Nietzsche's, okay? I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Friedrich Nietzsche is forever Freddie Nietzsche's, all right? Fucking Freddie ass Nietzsche's, all right? That's how I'll remember him for the rest of my life. Freddie Nietzsche's. Just because he'd probably fucking hate it. He'd probably hate it so fucking much. He would probably hate it more than his own life, which is saying something, all right? No, it's Freddie Nietzsche's. I don't care. I will disrespect that old ass white motherfucker along with all the other white motherfuckers who we've used to form our social constructs throughout the years. Fuck them. I am a doomer, but I'm a different kind of doomer. I'm a different kind of doomer. I'm a feminist doomer, all right? I'm a feminist doomer. So that's why I call... Okay, we got a hype train going. So we're still at 20%, 80% to go. 1 minute and 47 seconds left. Do we have any other gifters in this chat? Any other gifters in this chat? Freddy Nachos was... Master Gouda. Schopenhauer was better? In what way? In what way? Can anybody give me a hug? Lena, thank you so much for continuing the gift sub that you received from DC Baller. I need this to be a meme. All right, we're Hail Mary territory. Nini. Hail Mary territory. 60% down, 40% to go. Oh no. 30 seconds. Sim Daddy Kane, thank you for gifting a tier 1 subby. Any last minute gifters? Any last minute gifters? $15 seconds. Oh no. BKO, thank you so much for the 1,000 biddies, keeping this hype train alive. Thank you. Saved indeed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. God is dead. God remains dead. Oh. Oh. No. And we have killed him. How shall we comfort ourselves, the murderers of all murderers? What was holiest and mightiest of all of the world has bled to death under our knives. Who will wipe this blood off us? What water is there for us to clean ourselves? What festivals of atonement? What sacred game shall we have to invent? It's not the greatness of the deed too great for us? Most we ourselves not become gods, simply to appear worthy of it? Did I hear earlier from the other room that Adam and Eve had a chance? What are we talking about today? What are we talking about? We're just kind of going back and forth. I feel like I need context for that quote. Maybe one day. I've got a bone to pick with that idea. Oh yeah? Nietzsche's work was largely fucked up by his Nazi sympathizer sister? What? Thank you, Fields of Blue, for gifting a tier 1 sub to Pinelli. She was blind? She could not see. Yeah, she tampered with his writing? Wait, the blind sister tampered with Nietzsche's writing? What do you mean? And Nietzsche didn't figure it out? Hold on. After his death? What? You mean to tell me that it was Nietzsche's blind sister who fucked with his writing? Schopenhauer's views of despair was more empathetic and not fashy. And perhaps they weren't tampered with by his blind sister either. She and her husband? Oh, damn. The creator of the Nietzsche's archive in 1894 was 2 years younger than her brother. Their father was a Lutheran pastor in the German village of this place. The two children were close during their childhood and early adult years. However, they grew apart in 1885 when Elizabeth married Bernhard Forster, a former high school teacher who had become a prominent German nationalist and anti-Semite. As his caretaker, Forster Nietzsche assumed the roles of curator and editor of his brother's manuscripts. She reworked his unpublished writings to fit her own ideology, often in ways contrary to her brother's stated opinions. Through Forster Nietzsche's editions, Nietzsche's name became associated with German militarism and National Socialism, while later 20th century scholars have strongly disputed the conception of his ideas. Later in life, she became a member of the Nazi Party when she died in 1935. Holy shit. Hitler attended her funeral? What the fuck? Oh, we still have a hype train going. Shit. Clearly. All right. We are less than a minute. We got less than a minute left in this hype train. 16% down, 84 to go. You're really not going to like ship. You're really not going to like Ship and how his views on women. "30 seconds. Any last minute big gift givers keeping this shit going?" Why are so many people like same shitter, like same dude? All right, rip train. Why is the same dude? Really? Like you're gonna come in with the same shtick? Someone abused your emotes in chat? Where is this? Positive nihilism at work. Okay. Anyway, my point here is to point out weird historical shit. Thank you so much, Black Knight. I appreciate it.
Also, the utilitarian idea of justice makes sense even if you don't believe in free will. Because retribution really only makes sense if you believe that people freely choose their actions and are therefore culpable for their behavior and can be deserving of punishment. Because punishing someone for something they didn't meaningfully choose seems, well, the Greek historian Herodotus tells a story about the Persian king Xerxes ordering the sea to be whipped with 300 lashes after a storm destroyed his bridge. Which seems irrational, right? To punish a force of nature. Leave my beautiful wet wife alone. It's debatable how free humans are, like we're at least partially products of our genetics, our environment, our upbringing, our Hogwarts house, the placement of Venus in our natal chart, dry, oily, or combination. And modern criminal sentencing tries to take all of that into consideration. Like you might get a lighter sentence if you argue that, your mother never took you to Disneyland. It was a crime of passion. Through no fault of my own, I was high on bath salts at the time of the tax evasion, Your Honor. A lot of the language around punishment in our legal system is utilitarian, like prisons are called correctional facilities and not retribution cages. But correctional facilities is a euphemism because the fact is, these facilities are not doing very much correcting. I'm sorry. In the United States, 2/3 of released prisoners are rearrested within 3 years, and 76% are rearrested within 5 years. And just think about the way we talk about incarceration. Like if someone really evil gets a long sentence, we say, good, I hope he rots in prison. Like when was the last time you heard about a criminal sentencing and someone said, good, the proven efficacy of our correctional facilities will rehabilitate this man and release him a contributing member of his community. So even the institutions we have that are supposed to serve a correctional or rehabilitative function are still obviously satisfying our urge to punish.
I feel like this is a really slippery slope, right? Because in all reality, we have people who do evil shit. Like we do. We have evil people out there, and maybe we don't have the best infrastructure in place to justly correct their behavior, or maybe we don't have the right kind of criminal justice in place, or the right kind of codified system, or the right kind of law that proportionately does its job of applying the right punishment to the right crime. It's all very arbitrary. We don't know what the fuck we're doing. But again, it doesn't change the fact that people do awful shit sometimes. How do we handle the people who do really evil shit. And again, I come at this from a very passionate place because I know firsthand what it's like to be subject of somebody's wrongdoings. An evil person who has the capacity to do evil things are a threat, all right? Whether or not you have experienced this firsthand, or maybe you have seen enough on it on the news, or you feel like you are affected by it, if you are part of a marginalized group that has been subject to harsher penalties or police brutality or anything of that sort, then yes, of course, you might be driven to feel as though this does impact you. But again, the fact that people are out there either individually doing awful shit or is part of a system that allows awful shit to occur, that is the issue. All right? That is the issue. If there weren't bad people, we would not need to have any type of punitive justice, or what is it called? Retributive justice. And again, I am incredibly biased because I know what I know how evil people can be. I've experienced it firsthand. I have experienced unlawful and relentless evil. And it fucks with you. And it fucks with me every day. Time to fess up. I've blocked Mo Brains because I felt he was timing me out on... You think Mo Brains was timing you out unfairly? Okay, Clear Joker. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your honesty. Did someone say something? Okay, Clear Joker. Nice. So, yeah, I guess we do have a system that does unfairly and disproportionately harms groups of people that do not deserve the sentencing that they have received. This is part of the broken criminal justice system that has led to the upending of systemic racism and marginalization in this country. But at the same time, this is why I think it's incredibly important to call for prison abolition, because I understand that this is a greater issue. It would be better to completely abolish this broken system than to keep it in place, because I have a personal vendetta, because I have a personal need to see the person who has hurt me face their consequences. Like, I'm big enough of a person to be able to realize that. And I realize that what I've suffered pales in comparison to what others have experienced. I mean, let's be honest. This is a really slippery slope for me, because I don't want to sound like I'm contradicting myself. But I do have these two very strong feelings within me. It's a simultaneous thing. I've gone weeks without being timed out.
I think the problem with utilitarianism is that while it's very rational, it's often offensive to human emotions. And you can say facts don't care about your feelings, we shouldn't be basing our legal system on whatever sadistic caprice passes through your mind, and I agree with you. But the fact remains, if someone hurts your child, you don't want to rehabilitate him. You want to set him on fire. And this disconnect between the legal system and human emotion affects law enforcement too. A YouTuber called Jose has a video called Why Some Cops Think They're the Punisher, which argues that some cops and soldiers admire the Punisher because they relate to his military background while fantasizing about the moral simplicity of his vigilantism. Jose quotes from interviews with military Punisher fans who say things like, "Castle doesn't see shades of gray," which unfortunately the American justice system is littered with, and which tends to slow down and sometimes even hinder victims of crime from getting the justice they deserve. Frank Castle is the ultimate definition of Occam's razor for the military. Don't worry about uniforms, inspections, or restrictive rules of engagement. Find the bad guys, kill the bad guys, protect the innocent. Any true warrior? That's the dream. So these cops and soldiers feel cramped by rules of engagement and use of force restrictions that are keeping them from serving swift and brutal justice. You know, law enforcement would be a lot easier if it weren't for all these pesky laws. There's a childish simplicity and dualism to this moral worldview. Find the bad guys, kill the bad guys. Again, it reminds me of the NRA rhetoric about how you need a good guy with a gun to stop a bad guy with a gun. They sound like 8-year-old boys playing cops and robbers. Good guys and bad guys. That's my impression of an 8-year-old boy. And to be fair, I totally understand the appeal of moral simplicity. People love justice served and instant karma videos for a reason. We take satisfaction in swift, decisive, elegant retribution. But the procedures of law enforcement and criminal justice don't allow for that. There's all these tedious roadblocks. Right to an attorney, right to remain silent, right to a fair trial, presumption of innocence. A lot of police wish they could simplify things by being judge, jury, and executioner. But the function of police is supposed to be limited to making arrests and initiating criminal investigations. They're not supposed to be walking avatars of karma dispensing free-form retribution in the streets at will, justice served, now with 20% more police brutality. But a lot of people defend the police when they behave like this because the thin-wristed civilians are just as emotionally frustrated by due process as the cops. Well, did I just say all lives are bastards? I'm double canceled. Well, look, all lives are bastards, but only some bastards are armed by the state and licensed to go bastarding around town. The rest of us have to be bastards on our off time. I also think there's a secular version of the just world fallacy going on here. People like to think that if the police kill somebody, it must be because that person did something wrong. Karma at work, justice served. Victim blaming is an expression of the just world fallacy. You get what you deserve, so if something bad happens to you, you must have been asking for it. And obviously racism is a huge part of this. You know, there's structural white supremacy that occupies black neighborhoods with police instead of investing in communities. And people are prejudiced and more likely to think of black people as criminal thugs and therefore deserving of police violence. So we get this no angel discourse that comes up every time a black person is murdered by the police, where they bring up the victim's criminal record or a picture of them looking like a scary thug, as if that proves they deserved to die. The problem with this, of course, is that no one is an angel. There are no angels walking this earth. We're all flawed. We've all made mistakes. We've all done bad things. That doesn't mean we deserve to die a violent death. And then there's people like Breonna Taylor and Elijah McClain, who as far as we know were about as close to angels as humans come, but that didn't protect them. So that is 100% beside the point, because black people in America should not literally have to have white feather wings and glowing halos to deserve not to be murdered by the police. In fact, people of all races have the absolute right to be low-life, drug-addicted, petty criminals who contribute absolutely nothing to society and yet still not be executed by the cops, because that's what it's supposed to mean to live in a free country. So things need to change. The Punisher police have got to go, and a lot of the rest of our justice system with them. We need to imagine a whole new approach to justice, and to be honest, that might take more than one YouTube video. I know at the beginning I said I was going to explain what justice is, but I lied. I'm sorry that I can't fix America. I'm just a lonely cat. I guess the only solution is revolution. And by revolution, I do mean vote Democrat and then bully the Democrats into actually doing something. And if they don't listen, well, hang on, let me get this. Moshi Moshi. Hey, how are you, Dace?
My boy's got his own ringtone. It's the only one I know, it's the only one I know. My boy's got his own ringtone. It's the only one I know, it's the only one I know.